So when people ask me and they're like, well, I don't think this is the brain. It's just and maybe it's an infection, it's the mold, it's whatever it is. And they're like, because they're not stressing about it. They don't feel like they're in a stressed out mode, and I get that because I know what it feels like myself. But I always have to go back to the reality that their brain, how do I say this, Lord? You might not be able to tell in the way that you feel, other than the fact that you have symptoms of, say, a chronic infection, for example, or an autoimmune condition, that's the way that inappropriate triggering or firing of the body's inflammatory processes is being carried out and sustaining disease and degenerative disorders in the body. So the person could not really be all that aware of how this is happening behind the scenes to cause or continue that degeneration or that chronic infection. This is why it's like when people say, oh, so and so had so much faith and yet they had this illness or they died of this. I'm like, but I don't think you quite understand the way in which the body and the nervous system and the brain work. None of us really are all as aware as we think we are of the level of unbelief and stress and filters that we can be living out that are not coming from God. I am saying that truly in humility, not in pride, because God's constantly helping me to see the layers in which I still go to wrong patterns. And I've finally, through prayer, through my own process with Him, whoa, now I see it. And it still takes some time to wire that out. Okay, so in fact, I've heard this from people who don't realize, wow, I didn't realize I was even a negative person. I'm pretty happy. Like, I didn't realize until I started this process and became aware. So that's what I'm saying. We can never judge either God, well, obviously God, or someone else's outcome based on what we know about them, because they might not even be as self-aware as we either think they are or they think that they are. As I know I'm not perfect. I know that. I know that God is continually showing me some pretty wow, that's there. And it is very humbling. Okay, so brain retraining, what we do in brain retraining and why this is so effective is that we actually learn through a lens and a framework where we can say, hey, here's a bunch of patterns. You might have your own individual ones that are not on this pretty robust list that I help people work through to see, to observe, of thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that are so I help point people to these to observe that and start to see strongholds ultimately in the ways in which we are living out lies. And this comes, it's like layers of an onion, and you're not really all that aware. Oftentimes, some of the symptoms are staying there, and you're like, I feel like I've worked through everything already, and it's still not coming down. And yet, as you keep going, it just keeps getting broken up. Okay, so in a structured process like this, what we do is through the Lord's guidance, through the Holy Spirit, through your relationship with Him, as you're continuing to fix and magnify the love of God for you, and you're working on all of these things to bring truth in, is it starts to bubble up in you and you can see more and play more of the curious observer to redirect. And we do this through a very robust structured practice, not just find and replace a thought. Yeah, that's great. That's a part of brain retraining. But what we actually do is we target the subconscious and we use a few methods. One of the big things that we do is start to gosh, there's so many things, but one of them is definitely visualizations. But there's ways to do this in which we can actually find an old loop that's in there, then we don't want to complete it anymore. And it's a tree that's in there that is still continuing to light up and fire and affect the rest of your whole body, your whole experience as a person. And we actually target that and we interrupt it and we put in a whole new program in the brain. And we do this through the Holy Spirit. We do this through your relationship with God. We do this through intimacy. And it's so specific and so powerful. And we do this over and over and over again in a process daily. It might sound like a lot, but it is amazingly powerful.